What's up everybody, Gale here, and welcome to another Dragon Age Inquisition video. If savagely tearing through hordes of enemies, taking their lives as your own sounds like fun, this is the build for you. The Reaver has some of the highest single target damage in the game, but it comes at the risk of your life. This build lives life on the edge, teetering on the brink of death, to deal insane damage to your enemies. Don't be fooled by the fact that this is a warrior build. This is in no way a tank or support. This subclass is a 100% selfish, do-it-yourself through sheer damage playstyle. This class is super fun, as rapidly tearing through enemies getting stronger and stronger with each kill is incredibly satisfying. Reaver will rip through any target you put before it within seconds. Let's get right into the early game. Warriors are okay in the early game, as they can provide decent utility, CC, and a frontline for your teammates. Make sure to bring another warrior with you to be the primary tank, as you will not be able to take the full brunt of enemy damage. Because you don't have the stats, equipment, or abilities quite yet to be a damage threat, it is important that you support your teammates with the CC you provide. The CC will be in the form of Mighty Blow, Grappling Chain, and Pommel Strike. Mighty Blow is the basic two-handed warrior ability of the game that you will start with. It knocks enemies down and has decent damage. This will be your most common ability you use until you acquire specialization. It's important you maximize this ability by knocking down priority targets and ideally, multiple targets. Use Grappling Chain, then Mighty Blow on a mage to assassinate them without having to chase them down. Grappling Chain is a super underrated ability. Chain allows you to pull an enemy archer or mage from their safe space and rip them to shreds. All from the front line of the battlefield. Pommel Strike is very important for this build. Quite frankly, guys with shields in this game are assholes, and this goes through their shield to stun them, allowing for an easy kill. This is especially important for this build because it wants to keep a fast pace of tearing through enemies without slowing down. And the shield will absolutely stuff you if you do not have a way to deal with it. I personally save Pommel Strike only for enemies with shields, but in the early game, don't be afraid to use it more often. Horn of Valor is one of our utility spells. It is one of the best abilities in the game. It helps our teammates, gives us more damage, and most importantly, is a source of guard after its upgrade. Guard is wildly important for the Reaver. Use this ability before the fight and every time it's on cooldown to keep you and your teammates alive. For equipment in the early game, we will be crafting gear because that is almost always the best option in this game. For your armor early on, give yourself defenses, as you will not be very tanky yet and you need to do everything you can to survive and support your teammates. Prioritize crafting gear that gives you defense, and fill the slots with defensives, constitution, and strength. Once we reach mid-game, craft yourself some new gear that prioritizes offense with crit chance, crit damage, and offensives. It's super important that you are dealing huge damage after you get the Reaver specialization. The Reaver specialization is super unique, and it provides us with the abilities that are pretty much the entire identity of this build. The main two abilities being Devour and Dragon Rage. Dragon Rage is our primary spell, and the one we will be spamming for the rest of the game. Dragon Rage is a fury-fueled spell that uses your health instead of stamina. This ability also gets significantly more damage the lower your health gets. These two effects obviously loop well together and are what make a Reaver a Reaver. Our entire identity revolves around this ability and it determines everything we do. In most situations, we are just spamming this ability until we run low on health. Then we use Devour to get our health back. We will have a lot of guard on hit with this build, but it will not protect you from accidentally dooming yourself if you spam this ability too much. So keep track of your health to make sure you have enough to spare before casting this ability. Devour is a spell that heals you on attack. It also has more healing and damage the lower your health is. This is why this build is constantly teetering on the edge of death, because you deal more and more damage the lower your health gets, but you are also gambling with your life. Two more important things to note about Devour is that it costs quite a lot of stamina. So not only are you constantly managing your health, but you also need to make sure you have enough stamina to cast your next Devour. Because oftentimes, when you want to use Devour, it's because you need it now. This is why I usually tend to avoid using Ring of Pain, because it's high in stamina cost and not really needed. Secondly, this is a very close range melee spell, so it is imperative that you are always up close and personal on an enemy. So if your health drops low, you have someone to vampire off of. This brings us to the last active ability that I have to mention, which is Combat Roll. This ability is the most absolutely overpowered and cheesy move in the entire game, due to its passive, Coming Through. I'm only including it within this build because I did want to include Combat Roll in one of my videos. And it's a very good ability for Reaver, due to the fact Reaver likes sticking close to its enemies. I wanted to show how absolutely disgusting this ability is. This is a neutral warrior ability, so you can really do this with any warrior subclass. Combat roll by itself is a small roll that is on a 2-second cooldown, which is quite balanced, if not weak. But with the upgrade coming through, this turns into the most broken ability in the game. Coming through gives this ability 250% weapon damage. You can also crit with this ability and get elemental effects from weapons like your chromatic greatsword. Being able to roll around through enemies and deal thousands of damage to them with crits is absolutely ridiculous. You can literally just roll around at everything, just completely annihilating them. It looks pretty goofy and there is no way it was intended, but I did feel the need to show it in a build. For me personally, it's too cheesy, and I would not use it. I would recommend just foregoing the overpowered passive on it and continuing on with the build. Alternatively, you can spend those points to go into the Vanguard tree and grab Charging Bull instead, which will also give us mobility, guard, and CC, which is all fantastic for us. The build is almost done, but first I want to head back to the Reaver to talk about its passives, because they are very good in adding to the Berserker playstyle. Fervor gives you a 30% damage boost every time an enemy dies near you for 5 seconds, which is why it's very important this build just keeps going, and why we have Pommel Strike. A 30% damage boost is no joke. Fervor alongside Blood Frenzy gives us very significant boosts to our damage, with Blood Frenzy giving you even more the lower you go. When an enemy is below 35% health, that's when our passive Scenting Blood kicks in. It gives us a 50% speed boost to our attacks, and we get an extra 10% critical hit chance. This is part of what makes this build such a single target annihilator. The armor for this build will be a Superior Skirmisher hat and the Skin That Strikes, as those give us the most utility and offensive slots. You will want to get around 40% crit chance and then boost your crit damage and attack. One extremely important thing to note about Reaver is it is very reliant on guard on hit. We touched on this a little with the Horn of Valor. You will want to get some Fade Touch Lambswool, Onyx, Obsidian, or Gurgit skin to place on your weapons and armor to help you survive. Fade Touch materials can be annoying to farm, but luckily there's a guaranteed Fade Touch Onyx in a crate on the boat right in the area where you fight the dragon in the hinterlands. So kill the dragon, get the loot, and stick it on a weapon. You will need it. The ring, amulet, and belt will all be acquired from various locations and cannot be crafted. Their Chromatic Greatsword and Chromatic Axe are the two best choices, but if you do not like their style, then the Axe of the Dragon Hunter is also a great choice and can be found in the Black Emporium. As always with my build videos, there will be a link in the description to a full leveling guide. Let me know what you think about the build in the comments down below, and please click the like button if this video was helpful. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.